Hayden, please call the roll.
Senator Serpoy,
Here.
Henderson, Bernstetter, Carter, Fitzwater, Gregory 21, May, McCreary, and Mosley.
We have a quorum. We have a quorum present this morning. Pardon me? No. This morning we are going to hear Senate Bill 1208 by Senator Gregory. Senator, when you're ready. And anybody testifying today, please get a witness form, have it filled out. And when you get here, tell us who you are and who you represent. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Senator from Callaway, thanks for being here this morning. For the record, State Senator Curtis Gregory, the 21st District, presenting Senate Bill 1208 on net metering. When passed in 2007, the Net Metering and Easy Connection Act was intended to kickstart the solar industry by encouraging consumers to install renewable electric generation units, primarily solar, on their homes or businesses to reduce their electric bills and require the utility provider to purchase excess power generated. Since the Net Metering and Easy Connection Act was first enacted in 2007, the growth of distributed energy generation has created opportunities, but also created challenges in the area of consumer protection, safety, and fairness. Two of the problems have arisen: inadequate safety provisions. The number of unsafe installations by unqualified installers is increasing, thereby creating serious electric safety and system reliability issues. This one has hit fairly close to home for myself, and it's probably the reason I ended up with this legislation, because my parents, we did install solar out at our farm on our shop. It got installed, appeared everything was fine, and then I don't remember the time frame, but I think it was within a year, had an issue where one of the inverters, I guess you can say phased out, not blew up isn't the right term. And when we called to have it checked, the company that actually did the installation was no longer available to come. So we had a company I was today, I can't remember the names, come up and looked at it. And as they started looking at the installation, I don't know the right size wire, but it's measured in gauges. Just say it's double out wire, so fairly large is what they laid. But the lugs going into the inverter weren't made for that size wire, so they cut the wire down because it was a cable stranded together. And so they cut that wire down to put it into the lugs to make it all fit, which led to the failure of that inverter. And then all that had to be out of pocket because the company that installed it was no longer in business. And so this is definitely an issue. It's not the first I've heard of. As we talked to that company that came and fixed everything we had wrong, they said they're having to go back and take care of issues like that. Another issue is unfairness to non-net metering customers. The current law prevents electric utilities from setting and designing rates to ensure that total electric system costs are shared fairly between these customers that can afford the systems and then the majority that cannot. As I've learned down here in my short 6 years, there's a lot more than just goes into it than the cost to produce the electricity. You've got the cost of the workers that go maintain the lines, you've got the cost of the lines, you've got the cost of utility poles, and everything else associated with that. And when you build the system, generally you size it to fit what you are using on an average basis. But there are times where on the farm, when I'm running my grain bin fans, that we definitely use a lot more than what we produce, and I'm relying on the grid to get that extra energy towards me. As I've spoken about this issue with the industry, regardless of how many people are on solar or have these systems, they still have to make sure that they have enough capacity as if no one had these systems, because we never know what's going to happen. And when you flip that light switch on, you want to make sure it comes on. So what Senate Bill 1208 would do is give electric utility providers the ability to decide how to recover costs for their systems and increase safety requirements that ensure safe and reliable energy generation for self-generation installations. And that'd be done through a three-pronged approach. Number one, add additional safety provisions to ensure the safety of customers and the men and women who maintain the electrical grid. Strengthen consumer protections through transparency and accountability. And then finally, ensure reliability of the electrical grid through allowing the flexibility to ensure fairness amongst all customers. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Seeing none. Thank you, Senator. How many people want to testify in favor of this bill? How many in opposition? Okay, the first in favor, please come forward. And again, make sure you fill out a witness form and leave it with the table if you would, if you haven't done it online.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Mike Sutherland. I am Vice President of the Missouri Electric Cooperatives, and I am here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 1208. Co-ops fully support renewable energy and our members' choice in installing their own generation, and we don't oppose net metering, but it needs to be sold truthfully, installed safely, and paid for fairly. Electricity can be lethal if not handled properly, and utilities have the ability to ensure that all solar units are installed and connected to the grid by only qualified professionals, and that's called for in the bill. If you look at the bill language, and Senator Gregory really talked about the different parts of the bill really well. Looking at it on page 4 is the section. It provides electricity providers the flexibility to approve rate structures for distributed energy generation customers that may differ from rate structures from customers that do not generate electricity. And so that's the portion that addresses the fairness or give the utilities the ability to do that. At the beginning of the bill, there is a change in the definition of net metering. Net metering is a billing process, and I think that the old definition is a little bit confusing, and so the new definition adds clarity to that, but it doesn't impact those folks who are going to have net metering. And then on page 6 and 7, section 6, this section is meant to ensure that if a customer uses a battery pack and is for battery backup, that be installed in a way that it can be isolated from the transmission system. This in no way prevents the use of battery backups, it just ensures safety. One of the challenges with a distributed energy system is that they produce energy, and so that energy, if it's in excess, goes back onto the grid. If there is a power outage caused by a storm, caused by something else, and there needs to be work done on the transmission system, the lines have to be dead. There needs to be so that there's no current there. And a solar or distributed energy, even if the sun's shining even just a little bit, it can produce energy and backfeed. If it's not isolated from the transmission system, it can backfeed onto the transmission system, putting the workers who are working on it in danger. So that's really all we're asking, is that systems, when they're installed, make sure, and many of them are. But then in section 8, an important section leading to that is this section is a consumer protection section, making sure that if a installation is done, that it is done by an electrician considered qualified by the electric provider. As you heard from Senator Gregory's testimony, sometimes, not all the time, there are good installers. I'm not saying that there aren't good installers, but there have been issues and problems where installations weren't done well. And then kind of adding to that on pages 11 through 14, a long section on consumer protections that are important to the bill. And what's contained in the bill are updates. You know, the law really hasn't been changed since 2007, and so we feel like these are needed updates. So Senate Bill, in closing, Senate Bill 1208 would give electric utility providers the ability to decide how to recover costs for their system and increase safety requirements that ensure safe and reliable energy generation for self-generation installations. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. So today, the way it works is if somebody wants to put a solar array in, they have to contact their provider, right? And
They do.
coordinate with them.
They do.
And in spite of that, they're still getting, do they do the inspection after it goes ready to go online?
I think that there is some inspection done, but I think that I'm not sure what that inspection process is. Need to get information about that.
Because we're saying,
but they do work with the utility to try to make sure that it's safe. And in the bill, we're adding kind of on the front end that they work with a qualified electrician, somebody who's really qualified professional.
That's not needed today. I mean, if I wanted to put an array in as a homeowner, I could do it, and they can't say, well, you got to have an electrician sign off on the job before will put it in service?
The utility, I think, does have a part in approving the system that does get put in.
So how are they
correctly.
getting shoddy work done today if they got to sign off on this stuff?
I'm not, I don't have an answer to that. I had a witness who was going to be here who works with that every day. I actually have some written testimony from him. He got shingles and is not here
It's okay
because
he's
of
not
that.
here.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that. He was
It's
not
okay,
able.
and stay down there, please.
Yeah.
So all these systems come with a transfer switch, right? I mean, I used to work for a phone company. We have generators and they have transfer switches.
They're
so you don't-
supposed to,
So you
yes.
don't backfeed on
Yeah.
that stuff, but that's not always universally done.
I think that it is supposed to be, and I think that the changes in the bill just ensure that it is.
Okay. And this isn't just for co-ops, right?
No,
This is for
no.
everybody. This is
I'm here
for-
on
right.
behalf of the co-ops, but it's for all the utilities.
So it's for everybody. And also, this thing about the rate class, we talked about that a little bit in my office. Because co-ops get a decent return today or payment for your fixed costs, right? Higher than the IOUs do. You've got, on your bills for co-ops, they pay more for the grid month to month than it's not so much built into their rate case, right? Or into their
Well, every
into their
every
kilowatt rate.
cooperative, there are 40
Right.
distribution co-ops. They all do their billing slightly different.
Right.
They're all independent.
But I think they have
And-
higher fixed costs built into their bill than
And-
the IOUs do.
And definitely co-ops, because of being located in rural areas, have higher fixed costs, higher transmission.
And so is that an attempt to get higher fixed costs built in a special rate class, or what is that?
It is giving the utility the ability to have, current law, there can't be a special rate class for those who have distributed energy.
Okay.
I think they are, in our opinion, different
Right.
with that, and so that would give the flexibility to have that. Different
Okay.
rate classes, and there are other different rate classes
Okay,
as
well,
well.
hopefully we'll hear from an IOU here, and we'll see what they say about that. Any other questions to this witness?
Yes.
Senator May?
So my question is, why aren't these installers bonded?
That is a good question, and maybe they should be bonded. But oftentimes, I don't believe they are. I think if they're, depending on their business model, some of them may be into, and this is, and also I don't want to lead you to believe that every installer is a bad installer, because
absolutely.
our cooperatives work with some really good installers, but some of them aren't. And they may lead the customer into believing something that's not, which doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen, and to really creates a big challenge.
So do the installers have to be electricians, or are they not?
No.
So they
I
do not
don't-
have to be electricians?
I don't believe that they do.
But they're dealing with the electricity
Correct.
when they're installing.
Correct. And yeah,
And that could be very, very dangerous for the homeowner and the,
correct.
interesting. I think they should be bonded.
Senator, if I may, if you turn on page 8 of the legislation, you'll see where the sections we're trying to add talks about deemed qualified by the retail electrical supplier. In the event that the professional electrician or engineer is not licensed, the retail electric supplier may require a bond or other form of financial security to ensure safe installation. So that is something we are trying to touch on in this.
So in general, is a building permit required to install one of these systems?
I think that's a local
I mean, some counties
jurisdiction.
don't have it, I guess. but
That's a
if
local
you-
jurisdiction question, yeah. Some jurisdictions would and some
Where
don't.
I live, if you do this, you need one, and they would send an electrical inspector out before they'd sign off on it. So, okay, thank you. Any other questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ryan.
And, Mr. Chairman, I have written testimony from the witness that wasn't able to be here. Can I submit that as well?
Is it shingles free?
It is.
Okay,
It is.
sure.
It is.
You can leave it.
It is.
Thank you, I'll make sure the committee gets that. Could you go down? You might as well get it now before the table gets full of shit. Next witness in favor, please come forward. Senator, he wants that paper. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Connie Ford. I am a registered lobbyist with the Missouri Association of Municipal Utilities and the Chief Member Services Officer for MPUA. Thank you. I'm testifying in favor of Senate Bill 1208 because it clarifies some things that really have been left open to interpretation, and so I think it will be a lot easier on those installing solar and also for the utilities to clear some of these items up. I'm not going to repeat some of the comments that you've already heard, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper into some of those costs because I know that the incentives for solar and the cost being paid for that energy are something that have been discussed before. So thank you for touching a little bit on what goes into the cost of electricity. There's a cost for capacity. Sometimes people don't understand that, how you're going to reliably fulfill the electric needs for your customers. Transmission, also building and maintaining the local distribution system, and administrative costs like metering. So one thing I left out, the actual energy itself. That is just one component of many that go into the price you pay for electricity. So Missouri's current net metering law and this law keep the rate that's paid for that electricity only for the electricity that's generated, not a lot of these other costs. And let me talk a little bit about why that's important, because we're seeing a lot of costs go into capacity. So we want to make sure that everyone is paying for the electric grid. As Senator Gregory mentioned, everyone that has solar, for the most part, is still on the grid, and they're still needing that electricity during times when solar isn't producing. So when you look at it from a utility perspective and the responsibilities that utilities have, you have to look at the federal reliability mandates that we all have. Very, very important to our daily lives, to our businesses, that we have reliable electricity with no blinks, no interruptions. So it makes sense that we have federal laws that govern that. What we want to ensure as those who install solar are also part and connected to the grid are also part of the solution, making sure that we have reliable electricity. So I already kind of talked about that there are times when someone who has solar needs electricity. So I think that point's been made. But when we talk about capacity and reliability, the way that the grid operators look at it, like for instance MISO, is they evaluate each generation resource because it brings different things to the table. So the electric grid is operated that way. So as utilities, as solar suppliers, we need to be paying attention to when that electricity is used as well as how much it's being used, because there are times of shortages. So the electric grid must be planned and paid for based on what electricity is actually available when customers need it the most. An example of a stressed grid was Winter Storm Fern in January, where we came very, very close to energy emergencies. It was kind of touch and go. I don't know what happens during the MLK holiday, but every year it seems like we get really bad weather, and it's sustained extreme weather. So we want to make sure that everyone has electricity during those extreme weather times. Senate Bill 1208 helps ensure that rates reflect the true cost of maintaining this reliable system, that safety standards are clear for interconnection of solar systems, and that customers are not misled about what solar can and cannot do. In short, this bill protects reliability, it protects consumers, and preserves the cost of service principles that keep electricity affordable and dependable for all Missourians. And with that, I take any questions.
Thank you. How many munis are there in the state?
There are around 100, about, I think 89 of them are members of the Missouri Association of Municipal
So
Utilities.
there's 100 cities that provide power.
Yep.
How many of them generate their own power?
It's not that many of them. Some of our larger utilities, Springfield, Independence, and Columbia, have some generation. Then when you get into the more rural communities, they can either join together and get their wholesale electricity through us, or sometimes they're just an offshoot. For instance, if there's an Ameren line that runs right by there, they might just get their wholesale energy from Ameren.
Okay, thank you. Senator May.
So you spoke a lot about cost and capacity. I thought it was a 1-to-1. For every kilowatt that's generated in solar, that's the kilowatt that goes to the grid and vice versa. Is it a 1-to-1 ratio? And so if not, where is the capacity cost coming in? Because I thought it should be based on the,
What the capacity, what the value is
Yeah,
of that.
absolutely.
So say you, let's use 100, that's easier to do the math. Say you install 100 kilowatts or megawatts of solar. The sun isn't going to shine all the time, and so what the markets, the MISO, SPP, the way they look at those resources, because they have to know how much electricity is actually going to be delivering, right? This is kind of aside from the daily operations where you're just moving electrons around. So they look at each resource and say, okay, how much when we need this is this going to be available? Things have gotten even more complex because now the MISO and SPP have seasonal capacity, which takes into consideration that solar donates to the grid or produces electricity at different times, different amounts. So let's look back at Winter Storm Fern. Sun wasn't shining, it was really, really cold for days on end. So solar wasn't producing as much in the winter. We all know that from living in Missouri. We only wish that the sun would shine sometimes in the winter. Now in the summer, it's a good resource. So what they've done is they look at each season and say, okay, during the summer, solar might produce 40% of the time. So you only get credit for, let's say, 40 out of that 100 that you installed. Now you look at...
So isn't that reverse net metering though? So say for instance, if my solar is producing, am I getting credit back to the grid for that? So when winter comes,
Yes.
if I'm overproducing what I don't use?
Yeah, so here's the most confusing thing for me to try to always explain to people. My last 30 years, it's been real hard to explain this, but there's two parts of electricity. How much you're actually producing, but then also it's when it's being used. Because you can't just store it. I mean, batteries
Absolutely.
you can store a little bit, but you have to make sure that every moment that someone wants electricity, there's something there generated.
Okay.
So when you go back and you look at your resources, that's where those capacity factors, I like to look at them as reliability factors, but then sometimes people in the industry get upset with me. But that's the overall concept. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the overall concept.
So it's like, I'm just going to ask this question and we can end it because we'll be going on all night. So it's like I might generate past the 40 kilowatts, but if I use 20 of those kilowatts, then I only got 20 kilowatts to get back to the grid. And
Yes.
so even though I may have a 100 kilowatt solar thing, I'm not always putting 100 kilowatts back on the grid.
Yeah, and and that's what you get billed for, and that's what the solar producers get paid for, how much energy they're actually producing.
Okay.
But on the utility side, for the reliability purposes, you have to think through all those times. What if this resource doesn't show up? What is going to show up to take its place?
Okay, very good. Thank
Any
you.
questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Next in favor, please come forward.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mark Figgenbaum with Missouri Farm Bureau testifying in support. We believe that net metered customers should pay the fixed costs of connecting into the grid, and so for those reasons, we're in support.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Anybody else in favor? First person in opposition, please come forward.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Tyler Travers, Policy Director at Renew Missouri. I'm also here today on behalf of the Missouri Solar Energy Industries Association, or MOSIA. Respectfully, both organizations would like to log opposition to this legislation today. We in this room understand that this committee has robustly talked about solar energy this session already. We, of course, understand that Senate leadership, Senator O'Loughlin, and some other senators have expressed concerns about solar taking up too much space on Missouri farmland, in their opinion. We also know that today in Missouri and in our country, we need energy quickly and cheaply because of increased demand. One way to do that is to place utility-scale solar onto farmland. The alternative to doing that is to place more solar onto rooftops. And respectfully, because of the demand charges in this bill, we do believe that this would disincentivize both businesses and individuals from placing solar on their rooftop and could have an unintended consequence of placing more solar on Missouri farmland. We do not have any problems with increasing safety precautions. Senator Gregory had a very scary story that we do not want to see. I have done a ride-along with my local cooperative, and I know that it's very, they have to check a lot of boxes before putting those solar panels on that co-op's grid. Those engineers have to sign off, as Senator Searpoy touched on a little bit. So we would like to see bad actors out of the industry and more precautions, but because of the demand charges, we are respectfully opposed to this today.
Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, in opposition, please come forward.
This is my form, okay? Hi there. My name is Frances Babb, and I'm often, speaking before this committee, so perhaps you know me or remember me from previous testimony. My address is 2001 Kerrsdale Court in Clarkson Valley, Missouri. The first thing I want to tell you is I am a Republican, go Donald Trump, okay? And the second thing I want to say is I'm a voter. Every single election, you can take that to the bank. So I'm here to speak in opposition to this bill from a homeowner's perspective. I don't represent the industry. I just have 3 solar homes in the state of Missouri. My husband is a licensed, professional engineer, but he's not a licensed electrician, okay, and he has installed all 3 of our solar energy systems in Missouri, one of which in the Lake of the Ozarks area, which I'm going to talk about in a little more detail later. He did it. Okay, now we did have to have a sign-off from a licensed electrician, but 2 of the 3 systems that we put in did not require a permit from our local jurisdiction. Okay, now if Ameren, who is our electric provider, okay, has a safety concern about what is going on from people who are not qualified to do these kind of things, then they should come out, do a safety inspection before they set the bidirectional meter and connect us to the grid. To me, that just seems obvious. So from a homeowner's perspective, I find this bill very intrusive into my personal and private life. First of all, I should not be required to hire an energy audit to tell me that, ooh, Frances, maybe you should take those single pane windows and upgrade that, or maybe you need to buy a better efficiency furnace. I know these things. Why do I have to hire somebody to tell me something I already know as a prerequisite in order for me to have a solar energy system? And I don't think it's any of Ameren's business where the hell this array sits on my property, okay? Whether or not it's over here or over there, why should they care? They have no business knowing how much I paid for something and how long I am going to take to recover my cost. If I'm going to be charged 14 cents a kilowatt hour for Ameren to send the power that's generated from the Callaway nuclear power plant down an hour and a half to my house in the Lake of the Ozarks, then I am already paying for the cost of those transmission lines, the workers, the linemen, all this cost that they're wanting to try to recoup. However, if I generate more electricity and I'm sending part of that electricity back to the grid, this is kind of where I want to stand up and use my hands. What's going to happen is I'm going to push my electricity back onto the grid. It's going to hit the pole, which is on the property line, which is maybe 50 feet from my house. And there, Ameren is going to take that electricity and send it over another 50 feet over to my neighbor's house. So the transmission lines cost, whatever, is not coming from Callaway County down to me. It's coming 100 feet over to my neighbor's house. Now, if Ameren were to pay me a fair rate for that energy that I'm basically giving them, instead of, 2.8 cents that I'm getting paid in return, well, you know, I'm a profit center for Ameren. I am paying for that 100 feet because they are taking 12 cents or 11 cents out of me by not paying my fair share for my solar energy systems. Let's see what else I have to say about this. And I don't think it's any of Ameren's business about what warranties I have, and I don't think I should pay a bond for the maintenance of my system, and certainly the removal of my system that's probably going to happen about 30 years after I'm dead. That's crap. This is an anti-solar, anti-battery, anti-net metering bill, and some of these provisions need to go away. Now, I guess I'll think of one more thing before I go. Isolating the battery from the rest of the system. Well, systems already have a switch. I don't know if it's called a system controller. I don't know what the word for this thing is, okay? They already have this in place. Inverters, microinverters anyway, have built-in protections to keep the linemen from being electrocuted whenever I send stuff back to the grid and the grid's down. So, you know, it is silly. It disincentivizes people to put in solar, put in batteries, if the benefits of the current net metering bill don't continue forward, and there are a lot of roadblocks in the way. Ask me any questions. I'm just fired up. Go Trump, go solar, okay?
Thank you. Somebody should hire you.
They should. You know, I do all of this work helping people across the country fight cities that don't want to issue permits and fight HOAs that don't want to let people put solar on the front of their house. And I come here 2 hours, you know, at early morning, you know, deal with probably a traffic ticket or a parking ticket for lack of a place to park. And, you know, I volunteer my time in the support of solar, and I don't get paid a dime for it.
Well, thank you for that. Let me ask you something. You mentioned 2.8 cents. Is that what you get on reimbursement for the power you put on the grid?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
You get 2.8 cents per kilowatt?
I think that's what it is, but, you know, somebody from a utility can be able to tell me.
Is it the same no matter the time of day that it happens? Does it vary?
I think so, but somebody from a utility company would be able to answer that
Okay.
question far more accurately.
I thought it was closer to a nickel, so I think that kind of surprises
Well,
me.
you know, you could be right,
Oh,
okay?
Okay. Well, you gave us that number. Okay. Any questions for this nice lady?
Yeah, I just appreciate your passion. I won't speak for the other senators, but I love when citizens come up and have the passion that you do. And so thank you so very much. My husband actually installed our solar system. So he did it all on his own from the bottom up, had it checked out, obviously with a licensed electrician. And we're good to go and we love it. So anyway, thank you again.
I think if everybody understood, you know, what solar does and how beneficial it is, it'd be on every house in the state of Missouri.
Any other questions? Senator May? Thank you very much for your
Okay.
testimony. The next in opposition and wants to follow that act, please come up.
Good morning, Senators, Chairman Searpoy, members of the committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify. My name is Elise Schaefer. I'm here on behalf of Missouri Coalition for the Environment. We're a legislative advocacy organization fighting for Missouri's people and its environment, and I would first and foremost like to echo concerns about disincentivizing the adoption of net metering and distributed generation capacity that Mr. Travers covered in his testimony. It's vital at this point in our nation's history that we expand access to solar and distributed generation. It will actually improve the grid's resilience because it deconcentrates the electricity generation on the grid. So if a 50 megawatt Ameren solar field goes out, whether it's due to weather, an attack, something else tragic, that's 50 megawatts that are off the grid. If something happens at my home and we're producing a few kilowatts, then it's only a few kilowatts that the grid loses. Apologies. It's also going to help with costs because fuel is one of those huge costs. It was downplayed in earlier testimony, but all the fossil fuels that we use in the state have to be imported. Coal from other states and gas often from other countries, and often from politically volatile countries. Look at the price of gas when Russia invaded Ukraine. It was absurd. Likewise, during Winter Storm Vern earlier this year, we saw gas skyrocket from $3 per BTU to $30 per BTU, and having more rooftop solar and distributed battery backup will actually help smooth the demand curve and the prices of electricity. I have further elaboration in written testimony, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Anybody else in opposition? Anybody for information purposes? Senator Curtis, that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 1208. All business being finished, I move that we adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.